Hello everyone, thank you so much for coming for this event. And um, before I begin, I would like to make this dedication of my presentation to two very important sentient beings, the non-human beings, which in my opinion sometimes is a bit higher level. Some they think non-human means it's actually, animals are so loving, human beings, bite the hand that feeds you. So anyway, of course we are all equal. That's how I would like to see it. The two important people who have inspired me towards the direction of my interest in animal rights. The first one, his name is Johnny. Johnny is a mongrel. It was year 1975, I look still young, but 1975, I was only about 6 years old in Jalan Kayu Kampung. So we had a lot of mongrels there, living, coexisting so happily with us. And we call them kampung dogs, but we don't have terminology like mongrel or some other terms I don't want to mention, which starts with P, which is a very derogatory word, So mongrels were coexisting so happily, so we had Johnny. Mine, I was living in the poorest of the poorest section of Jalan Kayu in Tongli Road. And my family was the poorest in, the Catholic missionaries St. Vincent de Paul were, they already run out of budget to look after poor families, but my family was targeted as the only family in the quarters, not even quarters, it's squatterland. It's basically illegally we are sitting there. So my mom was a construction worker, a gentle lady who had 7 childbirths. Each childbirth she goes to the construction site to work. And that's how I always remember when we left Jalan Kayu in 1977, when we were in the truckload with all our, whatever that was left from Kampung that we were bringing to our one-room flat, 10 of us to live in a one-room flat. And my mom, she hardly speaks, and she just looked at me and said that, son, this is the road I built on the way to Ang Mo Kio. So that much of, so let me come back to Johnny. So Johnny, unlicensed, as you know, we didn't have any sense of, so in those days they used to shoot the dogs in Kampong, So whenever there's gunshot, we are so frightened, we'll be running helter-skelter for our loved one, you know how it is like, and trying to keep under the, what do you call, mom is going to construction site, busy working. My elder sister was 6 years old and she was a maid, and we had Johnny to hide under the bed when, we are so scared that just Johnny will just run because of the fear. So as children, we were kept in so much of fear. And that was part of the growing makeup of our psychology, of that fear of these gunshots, because we love animals so much, right? You know what anytime it's out, it can be just shot, And then mom came and there was a bit of discussion in the community and they said that, better just send this dog away to that, I don't know whether it was AVA, it must be AVA then, there's the street outside our kampong, the main road, there'll be a van that will be there at a particular period of time, and each one of us is supposed to surrender our dogs for culling. It's death penalty. I fight death penalty cases. Used to fight death penalty cases. Now I'm a non-practicing lawyer, but doing more cross-border work. And it is the same feeling I have. Some people ask me, what is, I said, it's the same, the death penalty, for me, it's the same. When you're killing animals, it's the same feeling that I have. For human beings, there's no difference. In pain, trauma, everything. One is voiceless, one has voice. But both are defenseless at most sections, or most period of the time. So it was so traumatic. The decision was, Johnny, you know what was, that the gunshots was going on for, in fact, a few years, and it's all that trauma that we were having. So one day, because St. Vincent de Paul used to give us food, right? So we get ration food from Yogyakarta. The church is still there. Although we are Hindu background, but the Catholic Church was helping us more. And I remember that mom said that, you know what? just send this dog away to those kind of very expensive housing estates, those bungalows there in Yuchikang and all that. Maybe around there someone might just adopt or whatever, because Johnny is so cute. Of course, like all of our dogs are cute, because we will say the kids are cutest, you know. So what we did was, we got a lorry from an uncle so that Johnny doesn't trace. You know what I mean? Doesn't come back. So we went all the way, sent the dog away, up. There was the canal, we left the canal further up. You know what? Before we reach home, Johnny is at home. You know? So heartbreaking. And then that day came in 1975. I was in second year in kindergarten, and I was given the task, surrender Johnny. Otherwise, this is going to be tough. You know, we don't want to be short or whatever. Or maybe there's some program, because it's all non-transparent then, you know, this culling thing, or they're going to keep, there's no foster. I mean, you guys are more familiar with this matters on animal welfare than I am. So that was very traumatic for me, and Johnny was crying, he could see what's happening, you know. So bye-bye, and that's it. Johnny was culled, or killed, executed, whatever you call it. That is the first dedication. By the way, invariably, most of the dogs there in my kampung were either Johnny, Lassie, or Tiger. But half of them were Lassie. You know, right, the show, Lassie. So we come back from work, Lassie, ooh, the whole kampung will all respond. Okay. The second, okay, so this was already 3 decades away, or almost 4 decades. Then the person that inspired me to start thinking about, seriously, although over the years I have been thinking and participating in my own little ways in animal rights, animal law rights, is this community cat named Rico. This lecture is because of Rico, that inspired my, the motivation. What happened, I was on my way from KL, in this death penalty campaign, trying to stop this execution of 2 Malaysian boys in Singapore, so we have agitated enough. So, Malaysia, and I was on my way, as if I don't have enough work on my plate, I saw Auntie Lily. Okay, I mean, until then I was not even sure about this community cat name also. You know, I said stray cat, there's this cat roaming around and all that. Auntie Lily then introduced this cat to me, but she was crying. She was very angry. You can see the outrage. Me like a wayang, you know, like a politician. So yeah, we all carry power, you know, cats and all that. It's all part of public PR relations, animals. So anyway, Auntie was saying she was very distressed because she was showing me pictures of pigeons being poisoned. Pigeons culled on the spot. She is saying, oh my gosh, I tell you, I think my phone have some pictures, but never mind. The thing is that these pigeons were poisoned by bread, poison bread were given to them, and she took pictures of all these beautiful pigeons, you know, all day. We don't even have animals, cats, nothing, all empty, you know, all, I don't know what is wrong with this society. Poisoning pigeon, and you know, under animal rights cruelty, you know, this one of the things that under section penal code is section 438 or whatever, that you can be charged if you poison animals and birds, you know, and we know who's doing this, right? The state. AVA must catch AVA and prosecute. You know, that will come back later to that story. So the thing is that she was so distressed, and she's been fighting in this flat, this block, for 20 over years. When every day is a battle for her, you know, every day is a trauma. She's so depressed, and until the family, you know, and the thing is that Rico, and she has been like charged before in court, or she was saying that, you know, like feeding animals and a few problems she had with authorities, fighting with RCs and stuff like that. And then she was complaining, you know, are you the lawyer one? You know, are you the lawyer one? Yeah, I'm the, you know. Okay, so I got this problem, pigeon, please help, stop this, that. Then she showed me the picture. Then I found out that she has been helping this cat, feeding this cat for 7 years, looking after Rico. Then I bonded with Rico. And then at that particular period of time, I read in the online media about the Independent, about the policy on cats, which I was now aware of, that in HDB you can't basically keep cats or adopt. It's illegal ownership as such. So I was very outraged because at that point I was thinking of, I was already mulling over some responsible position. I mean, you have to be responsible for cats. I'm not like so much of time. You have to really care for them. So I was thinking of alternatives, how to help this cat and so on. So that was, and I was very angry when I saw that announcement on the social media and online media, and then I found out that this policy, discriminating policy, then I started looking up the law, and I said, well, I'm legally trained, I will challenge this law in court. And hence I made my announcement that I will take judicial review proceedings to question the discriminatory, unreasonable, arbitrary, why dog, not cat. Also, it is discriminating to the extent that, I'm not stoking racial sentiments here, discriminating to the extent that there's a section of Muslim community usually don't have dogs. And they are religious sensitivity, whatever it is, we have to respect them. So that is also the rights enshrined under Article 153 and 152, the special position of the Malays also. It's all integral, it's a community, you have to be sensitive. This particular community will be affected by this, its affinity to that particular animal. So it is basically the interplay of the various constitutional provision in relation to the cultural sensitivity of the community, not so much about our racial tension or whatever. I mean, we are not interested in those kind of things. We want to have a mature dialogue. We are quite a mature society in Singapore, so we don't have that sort of want to relegate to parochial discussions. Now, so I made that announcement. Subsequently, 2 weeks later, they are relaxing cat policy. I'm not taking all the credit. Of course, a little bit I'll take. But so that's how Rico has disappeared from that place. Auntie is very depressed, and she asked someone, thinking that I might have kept Rico, and one fellow calling me middle of the night, hello, are you Mr. Ravi? Are you having the cat? I said, yeah, I'm in the bed, please don't disturb me. Midnight. So I think she's like calling them several times, and she thinks that, so I explained to her, no, maybe someone is looking after the cat, I'm not sure. But I do believe that Rico should be, I hope that, Rico is in a good place on earth. Don't look so worried, And so I'm dedicating also this to Rico. Now, and as I progress to the legal issues, what I think I would like to always keep in my mind, and for our society, this test laid out by Mahatma Gandhi, and often a quote which is often used in animal rights events. The greatness, Mahatma Gandhi says, the greatness of a nation and its moral progress can be judged by the way its animals are treated. I hold that more helpless creatures, the more we help the creatures which are entitled to protection by man from the cruelty of humankind. That is by Mahatma Gandhi. Now, so basically, the standard of the civilized nation is basically how we treat our animals. So with that barometer test in mind, let's now look at the legal issues. I'm not going to go into all the legal issues here. It's basically the questions that is being posed to us when there's culling, when there is, of course, the cat issue. You can go to court and challenge. It's an individually discriminatory policy that the person who's discriminated can challenge. But more in terms of the cruelty which is met out to animals like culling, like pigeons, like chickens, and all these things like dog, in numbers 900 being killed in a year in 2015, and only in 2011 that mongrels were allowed to be licensed. Can you imagine? Basically, you can adopt mongrel in HDB houses from. This policy was only implemented since 2011. Can you imagine before 2011 how many animals have been displaced? That was a crucial period, that period I was talking about in 50s, 60s, 60s, 70s, 80s. The pace of development was on crushing speed, how fast we move, and the pace of displacement of animals were also correspondingly crushing, and so much of distress. And we don't have all the statistics. Thank God, someone must have pressed this in 2015 that this was disclosed in 2015 that 900 dogs were culled. You know how much of dogs we see actually in the streets? Is there necessity to cull so much? So many, the remnants of our society, which is part of our coexistence. And then, of course, the society, there were a lot of people are asking, there are a lot of animal groups are shocked by these statistics. And I will come back to this issue of how we as a society, whether we can or cannot, or what are the parameters to challenge. Because we look helpless. A lot of people have asked this question, what can we do? What's happening? Parliamentary questions were posed by the MP Lewis about how many animals were killed and what was basically the culling budget, how much you spend. I heard it's 800,000 for the whole amount, but out of that, it's just a small amount was used for culling. My friend from Terry from Online Citizen was posing this question. I mean, like $800,000, small budget for culling. Tell us how much. So what is the remaining amount was used for? 800,000. Why do we spend so much of money to kill them, but not to actually uplift those animals and give them some care? Something is serious. So these are some of the questions that we think keep we think aloud as we tackle the subject. Now, before I go as to how you can, as a society, challenge and what are the challenges, how other societies like in Australia, India, and all the other countries have reacted and stopped through the legal process this sort of indiscriminate killings and cruelty and displacement of animals. Now, what is my experience in animal rights law cases? My first client was actually Louis from Acres in 2005. And there was a shark in a condo, which was kept in a small aquarium and in a very confined space, which has affected its movement. And so I wrote a letter. I didn't ask whether my client had a standing or whatever then, Well, the tricky bit is actually whether you have a standing to challenge. How do you actually represent animals? Who gives you the authority? That's basically the question will be posed to you, Always keep that at the back of your mind. So we wrote, and then the condo after that, quite a threatening letter, but then they said, okay, they provided a bigger aquarium for the shark. So that was my first experience, directly dealing with animal rights case. In what was another involvement I had, which was this chippy monkey. You heard about this case? This macaque. How do you pronounce? Macaque, is it? The monkey is called macaque. Okay, macaque. Macaque, this chippy monkey, was roaming around in, I think, Bukit Batok Park. And then Channel News Asia, there's one lady started bonding and giving the monkey breakfast every day. It will be there, and then eating, and then there's issue of feeding and blah 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 and all that. The monkey is helpless, the mother is dead, so the monkey cannot survive on its own. That's the theory. And then suddenly Channel News Asia and a lot of media attention was there. Then subsequently there was a decision made by AVA to actually wanted to take the monkey to cull. And then the issue is, how do you actually bring the monkey back to the habitat? Mother dead, so monkey is distressed. Anybody give breakfast? Antam. So this is how that bond was going on between she and Auntie Prema. She was 60 years old, Auntie Prema, who goes to park, she walks there and she feeds the monkey breakfast. I mean, at least good, Channel News Asia at least flashed that, and we got some awareness too. This reached UK, London, and there was I think Guardian paper or Daily Mail, an article about this. There's a lady from Wales, from Cardiff, Wales Sanctuary, and so she contacted, and she was also contacting me, and we were exchanging information, and she said, look, I saw basically before that the Wales Sanctuary was offering to take this monkey, Chippy, to Wales and provide habitat. Of course, like got for heater and all that, don't worry. So basically, it costs about $6,000-7,000 for Auntie Prema and her daughter wanted to foot that bill. So all this is in the media, you know. But after that, there was no communication. I mean, I saw all the correspondence. I don't want to mention names here about certain MP and blah, blah, blah and all that. That's not important. And she was very frustrated. There's no communication between these animal groups who were supposed to be fighting for that animal and so on. Then, no news, and everyone was so like afraid, suddenly missing, and what's going to happen. And Louis of Acres also wrote a letter not to cull the animal, the monkey, and so on and so forth. So again, what do we do? Can Auntie Prema go to court? So these questions were posed to me. Can she stop? Whale sanctuary, do you have any, can you go to court? You know, this discussion was floating around. And so, what we have, the experience, the question is, let's go to human beings first, then you will see the difficulty here in terms of how do you bring a case to court on animal rights issues in society. For you to have, to address the court on a violation of a particular right, for example, you remember there was a by-election in Hougang and this lady was representing Velama. So she went to court because they didn't want to hold, there was a discussion as to whether to hold a by-election or not. So the Prime Minister thought it was not, the elections are, by-elections are discretionary and not mandatory. So that Hougang constituency residents' right has been violated, the right to by-election. So Punggol constituency cannot file an application. So your rights must be personally violated. There must be a personal violation of rights to that individual, and that law must be, there must be a causal connection between the law and your right. And Kenneth Jaratnam, if you remember, he went and filed an application for the IMF loan issue, but they said, look, you don't have a standing because it's like you are like busybody in law. Like, oh, although you're a taxpayer, but you say you're affected, but it is not directly related to you as such. So you've got to establish standing. That means standing before the court, that you are directly affected. Okay, now, how about organizations which are, for example, home or aware welfare organizations, can they, with all the experience with that group of people and studies, can they actually go to court? In Singapore, generally the position is no, but however, it is yet to be tested. So, and for example, the home Bangladeshi workers, foreign workers, are all migrant workers affected. Can they go? In India, organizations can challenge. They can file, they call amicus briefs as well. That means you can intervene. Interested parties can intervene in the proceedings. Whilst the proceedings is going on, other expert groups can come and intervene in these proceedings. So, now it's big. So, human beings already, organizations cannot fight, right? Individuals only, for example, Velama must go to fight. She's a poor lady, she had to instruct lawyer, Asida, when, if not, there's no voice, but an organization like a political party, for example, the Workers' Party, can they go? That's not been tested properly, you know, but that generally the position is you must be personally, your rights must be affected. Now the law has evolved in Malaysia. For human beings I'm talking, so that you understand where the animals are, you know, their standing is, how far is away from the courts, is that Malaysia has developed a test, which is also Singapore developed in the case of 377A, in the case of Tan Eng Hong, a gay man who was charged under 377A, then I represented him on decriminalization of homosexuality to that law. So the court said that all gays who are affected by that law can challenge, you know, as long as you are a gay, you know, and an affidavit you must show or something, you know. So all who are affected. So there's a general, so that standing issue has been broadened. In Malaysia, they don't say it's a special interest. You must have a real and genuine interest. So it is broadened now. Now within that scope, let's look at animals. Compare Velama's situation, a defenseless lady, but she spoke up still. Animal being violated. So we expect the animal to instruct the lawyer. Is it possible? Can animals talk? Hey, come to me. No, practicing. No. But what I'm saying is that
property, and the property, they belong to an owner. But what if the animals have... So it depends on whether the animals are property.
No, that's another issue. But what I'm saying is that, okay, never mind. Let me just move on.
Okay.
You know, what I'm saying essentially is that animals have to be represented by someone, right? If a particular, like your situation you're talking about, like Rico the cat, I want to adopt Rico, my right is violated because I'm not allowed to adopt a cat in HDB. So I can challenge. You know, whether I will succeed or not is another question. You know, but I can challenge. But how about the pigeon being culled? So this situation, when it was a very, very tense moment, I think it's important that I relate to you this incident. In 2011, there's a cat lover, a cat welfare person, cat welfare activist, called me, and in fact, he wanted to meet me early in the morning at 8 a.m. He knew where I was staying. I was in Kovan. So he came and connected with me very early in the morning, and he looked so agitated and he's so anxious. He's taking a bicycle from Kovan and he's cycling, cancelled his job and cycling to Tampines to stop culling of microchip cats. All on video. So they're all showing evidence, I wake up only, this is happening. And I could see the anxiety because there's an auntie there who's battling against the authorities to stop. And they have some videos about how, they say that it's electrocuted or thrown into, old methods of, but I can't verify all these things. This is what they are saying. And they're more experienced in this. Then the situation was that the auntie is asking, I am a resident of this and there's a town council, can I take action? Can I stop this? Who can stop this? Can we stop AVA? What is SPCA doing? Cruelty, right, happening. And then the very AVA is supposed to have that section, the criminal code. And then SPCA have voiced, in fact I checked the pigeon culling, they have actually written saying that stop this, poisoning the pigeons. I've seen it on the website. And in fact, I verified this information when I saw this. So they have been speaking up, But you see, their SPCA is helpless. Animal, groups are also helpless because I could sense a lot of fear in our community. During this period of time, I'm really, thrilled to have met some of you and the information, and some of you are uncomfortable to come and speak here as well. I understand your anxieties, not for yourself, but you feel that AVA will target you and the animals will suffer. Isn't that so unhealthy? We are still worrying about this kind of things, We can't voice out because our welfare will be affected. They will target our animals. What kind of thinking is this? You don't have to speak, I told them, I will speak up. Because the ally of human rights activists and animal rights activists are very important. You do your job, we will do our job. So that is quite scary, because there's already fear of these groups. They can only some feedback they can give, but they can't do anything much. So that question about Tampines, that culling, continued. Microchip cats are not supposed to be culled, right? But they were culled. That was why the activist was extremely unhappy and distraught about this whole thing. So I left all that at bay, and over the years, So now, so all these various scenarios that is presented before us, with the latest of the chicken being culled versus noise. Minority were affected, 10 people complained or whatever. But what about the 90% who didn't complain? Haven't they registered that noise does not disturb them? The 10%, the 90% must complain against the 10% that complain. That your complaint is rubbish, So the thing is that, and then you have AVA giving another story, right? Avian flu, AVA got flu, avian flu. So that bird flu, and then because of that, and the logic has been shifting. We don't have the answers now. So we have in England, just I saw last night. I was doing some research. When the process is this. This is what we need to ask. I mean, in terms of court, I'll come back in a moment, how to get standing in court for animals. But in England and Wales, there were some articles in the Guardian, which I just read yesterday, that certain groups, what happens is that before an animal is culled, right, there's a process and mechanism that the public will be notified. Because this is public interest, public need to know, okay, these 900 dogs are going to be killed, blah, 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 blah. Every time, all the animals will be laid out, and there should be time for public representations, animal rights groups to make proper representation. Formal mechanism is made either by the town council, like London, like the borough councils in England and other countries. But of course, the procedures vary from country to country, but this is where the transparency. After representation is being made, if a decision is made, they must state what. That means a study. Okay, if I'm culling this 900 birds or cats or whatever. In fact, cats is horrible. I mean, I heard 10,000 cats were culled or something like that. Cats situation. I mean, they are already stray and not even allowed to be adopted. Can you imagine that situation? Second class. Underdogs. You have below that there's another class. So what I'm saying is that. So you need to let public have access to documentary evidence. To say, bring your experts, why you need to kill these animals, certain numbers, and then we have to question the numbers. And then we are entitled to, the animal rights groups are entitled to bring their experts to also question and present. And there is a lot of this exchange before decision is being made. And when the decision was made, do you know these groups I read on the online, they challenged in court and they stopped the culling. And when they go to court, okay, assuming you want to now take that step, because first you don't even have those mechanisms, transparency, representation, all that you don't have. But we get information, like chicken cull, only after culling we knew, right? And then we now know that 900 dogs are being killed annually. Dogs, the groups should be aware of this. They are sensitized to this information. Now what do you do to protect another 900 dogs being culled? What you can do, and this is not my legal advice, this is my academic opinion. And don't quote me anywhere, go and see your own lawyers. But our law firm, I'm a non-practicing lawyer, the law firm, we also do animal rights work. We have started already, So I think there's a starting point to network with like-minded individuals here as well. And so the question is, how do you then get standing in court? Because animal rights groups like ACRES, for example, can actually go to court, but we need to see what the court is going to say. In other countries, up to 1980s, even in the Western countries especially, Europe is a little ahead, and US, but Australia and New Zealand, which is closer to us, they had the problem because the courts were not willing to recognize that you must be personally affected. They were saying, or that culling or that activity must, I have a host of cases, but I don't want to go through for want of time, you can always email me. The thing is that the question is whether culling them, or stopping this culling, what benefit is it to you? You need to show some direct link again. But that test changed in late 80s, and they have laid out a test which is more in favor of animals. You don't even have to show some special interest or whatever, you have to show genuine interest that basically these animal rights groups need to establish that they have done a body of research or they have done a lot of work. That's what they are required to do. So in many of these jurisdictions, including India, animal rights organizations have been given the standing already. So you can stop. Stop as in persuade the court. So Singapore, we need to start thinking. But as I said, the fear is another factor we have, but we can always tackle it creatively. So this is the scenario that I would like to bring to your attention as far as the issue of standing. And before, because you may want to pursue some of these questions later during question and answer, before I end my talk, I would like to share this beautiful, not legend. You must be very careful when British try to talk about Asian history, they will try to make it like legend. But there are, of course, mythologies. This is a historical incident. Happened in the southern part of India, Tamil Nadu, in the year 200 plus BC. There was a king called, do you know that there's an animal actually went to court and argued and succeeded in its case? And it is history. Don't look at me as if I'm Ting Tong, although I am, which is why we are doing the work we are doing. So, the king, Chola king, was ruling southern tip of India, including the ancient city of Anuradhapura in Sri Lanka. I read through 2 weeks ago in detail where this king was, how his naval forces were so powerful, his strategic fortresses and all these places are there. So everything is highly documented as far as this king's work is concerned because of this. But this is Madras High Court, which was built, I think, in early 1800s in India by the British. Madras High Court. Is now called Chennai in South India. Outside the High Court is this king's statue, and below that is this carving of this wonderful sculpture. You see a cow there, ringing a bell. Next picture, can you just, next one, that's a cow ringing the bell. Can you just one down? Okay, this is actually one of the ancient temples. They found this portrait on the, basically this. So the cow really came to see, all these are signs. This is what I mean. So, this cow, let me tell you what happened. This king, his name is, long name, but I'll just say he's a Chola king. And one of the things that, southern India and India in particular is very, very highly evolved in animal rights during those era. But that has been destroyed over the period of colonization and all that. Highly evolved. The cradle of animal rights civilization and vegetarian philosophy, India had the longest tradition on earth and the highest population there and so on and so forth. But of course, animal rights issues were more strongly canvassed in the BCs or before Christ. And the king, Chola, he's very, very always these kings, ancient kings were, in India, southern kings especially, they were thinking very deeply about rule of law and access to justice issues. There were a lot of examples. One of the things that he did was, he set up this bell, a sanctuary for this bell, and for ordinary men to have access to justice, and if there's any corrupted process along the way, if laymen cannot have proper access to justice or appeals, you come and ring the bell, you will have direct access to my court and you can present your case. That was how, Justice Pao in China, those kind of parallels, So, this bell was never struck. And for about 25 years, this bell was sleeping peacefully. And then nobody came, and then there was one day, middle of the night, the bell struck. Everyone in that part of the state got, because they know this king will immediately, that passion for justice. And someone was ringing the bell with so much of, energy. And immediately the king summoned the courtesans and asked what happened. The wise men are two. Usually the kings will keep two wise men, two people. One is a wise man who's erudite scholar, and the other one is always a Siddha, Naga or Yogi. Nagas are usually, Kumbh Mela, they're always in the mountain, always sleeping with snakes, and then comfortable, and they're irritated by human beings. Most of the time they don't like to mix with people, because they can see human emotions, like Naga means snake. Cobra snake see you only run away because your vibrations are so bad. So that's the reason the Nagas actually sleep with animals and they don't. So but this kind of inquiry time that Nagas or Siddhas will come, so that they keep a very independent mind. So question asked what happened? They said, there's your son the prince was riding a chariot, and when he was riding the chariot, the calf crossed the road. He failed to stop at safe distance and crushed the calf to death. The mother had come to seek justice. History. That's the reason why it's outside Madras High Court. It's the pride of the ancient Indian culture. This particular event on rule of law, just in as much for animals, how much is for humans, that kind of intensity. So, next question. Wise man was asked, what do you do? What do I do? I mean, wise man said, then king said, okay, let me just frame the question properly. When an accident happens in the road, when someone is injured or died, what is the compensatory measure that we can give that will satisfy the person who's dead, basically the deceased family? The response was money, gold, diamond, right? Same, right? Damages, we call in court damages. How much you can earn, okay, the person is dead, we can't bring in this thing. Now, next question, the wise man was asked, what about this cow? Will it accept any of this? No. Then how do I actually address this injustice? Wise man was scratching his head. Siddha spoke. Siddhas, that yogi or medicine man or Xiaolang or whatever you call it. He spoke and he said, the only way to stop that cow from tearing, the cow was still crying, is that you have to crush your son to death. To show the equanimity of spirit, the equality of principle of justice that you preach, and you have to go and take the test yourself, and you have to feel the same pain that the cow is feeling, and that's the only way you can address this karmic state of mind and affair in this court. So go. This is how Siddhas are. That's why they are consulted, because they don't mince words. You know what? The king summoned the entire country. He put the son, prince, on the floor. He took the chariot and crushed death. And so the law of the land, yet of to then this principle of justice for animals have been enshrined so much in that part of the world. And I just wanted to share this history with you, and I thank you.